Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video, and thank you again for joining me for another one. And of course, my day one subscribers, I love you all. I appreciate you. Thanks for joining me on this journey. As you all know, and I mentioned this in the last video, we are doing our daily 10,000 steps, and we want to make sure that we stay healthy and in shape. And of course, while I'm doing my 10,000 steps per day, I figured it's a great time to share with you guys all the lessons and the knowledge that I've acquired through the years in order to help you guys in your journey in life. I want you all to be successful as well. Now, in my last video, I talked a little bit about how realized, unrealized gains and losses work. In a nutshell, of course, there's more to it than that, but I wanted you guys to have a basic understanding of that. And if you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend watching it. I don't know why you guys are not watching it yet. I mean, subscribe to the channel, give me a like, as it helps the channel grow as well. And stay tuned to the channel so that way you can see some awesome content like that and share with a family member or friend. But of course, again, if you haven't watched it, I'll link it for you guys. I'll make it nice and easy, so that way all you gotta do is click the link and then you can go ahead and watch it and learn about that. And by the way, guys, in that video, I talked about a little bit how taxes are a big implication in your life. Now, if you don't know, there's a saying out there, and the saying goes, the only thing that is guaranteed in this life is taxes and death. And boy, oh boy, do taxes. I can just sigh. That's the only thing I can say about taxes. But in all honesty, guys, one of my good friends, Tech Coach Ralph, he puts a comment up and he says, hey, you know what? I would love to see a video on taxes. And by the way, if you haven't seen Tech Coach Ralph's page, this guy has phenomenal content. So if you're interested in learning about certain aspects of technology, head over to his page and go learn from him as well, because he has phenomenal content. And if you head over there, let him know I sent you. So as Tech Coach Ralph says, hey, let's talk a little bit about taxes because they are a big thing. People don't really know how they work. And it's quite unfortunate because I see a lot of folks, they don't put the time in it at all, especially when you don't even realize how much you pay in taxes. And not only that too, once you start to realize how much you pay in taxes and how they're managing those funds and what they're doing with it, you really start to pay attention to who you start voting into office, and also as well the decisions that you make. Now again, this channel is not about politics, so I try to stay away from that. But the big thing is understanding how you pay taxes from a basic level. And once you start to see how it works, you start to say to yourself, oh, well, this is not too bad, this is not too difficult. But you start noticing how much you start paying every year. And then that's when you start to realize and you say to yourself, well, gee, where's all this money going? So this will be my attempt of explaining taxes to you guys in a basic concept. There's a lot more to it than this, but at least you'll have the idea of how things work from a basic perspective. And then it is up to you to go out there and seek a professional to take you further along the journey, because there's a lot more to it than I can pack into a short video. And one last thing before we talk about taxes and how they work from a basic perspective, there's a link in the description, guys, if you're still interested in coaching calls. I had a phenomenal coaching call earlier, and it's just so amazing that this person I've been coaching for quite some time, I get to see their growth. I get to see how awesome they're doing in life. And if you guys want to be in the same position where you can understand how to move ahead in life and leverage the information that we use, go ahead and click the link in the description, set up your coaching session, and I look forward to hearing from you. Looks like it's about to rain. No, don't rain, please don't rain. All right, we're gonna have to cut off the video. It's starting to rain. So of course, guys, I got caught in the rain, and I had to run just to basically make it to some shelter in order to be able to get out of the rain. But that doesn't stop us from doing this content. Look at this, it's kind of cool though. All right, guys, now that I'm done being rained on, and by the way, that's the thing with Florida. You never know when you get these torrential downpours and it starts pouring, and then all of a sudden it stops and it's beautiful and sunny again. Kind of weird, but anyways, back to taxes. So guys, one of the things that I've asked people all the time, and they don't know how taxes work, and they clearly answer the question incorrectly, and maybe I'll ask it to you guys and you let me know in the comments below if you knew exactly how this worked. So I'll go ahead and put a chart over here on the screen. And the chart over here shows you what the tax brackets are for a single filer in 2024. Now let's say you make $58,000 a year as a single tax filer. How much do you think you're gonna pay in taxes based on this table that you see here on the screen? Now, if you said 22% and you're gonna pay a total of $12,760, then you are absolutely incorrect. And see, that's the thing. Most people don't know how taxes work in the United States. And again, this will be a nice little attempt to break it down from an easy perspective, how taxes work. So let me break this down for you guys. And let me put up this chart over here on the screen so that way you can see what I'm talking about. So in the United States, we have sort of what I like to call a step-up bracket approach. So meaning that this step-up tax basis approach means that for every step of the way, you have to pay a certain amount of money in order to get you to your final tax bill. So as an example, and you're seeing it on the screen there, from your first $0 to $11,600, you have to pay a certain portion of taxes. And that certain portion there is 10%. And of course, if you look at the single filer's tax bracket, that's exactly what it shows you. You have to pay 10% on those money. Then after that, you get into the next tax bracket. And the next tax bracket starts at $11,601. And it goes all the way up to, if you're seeing it there, $47,150. So if you were to actually take the difference between the two, you would see that $35,549 is going to be what you have to pay taxes on in the next tax bracket. So the next tax bracket, as you're seeing there, is 12%. If we're keeping track already, remember the first tax bracket, you have to pay 10% on that $11,600. So if we're following here now, that's $1,160. The next tax bracket, which is what we're on right now, the $35,549, you have to pay 12% taxes on that. And that gives you a total tax bill for that bracket of $4,266, $4,266 for that tax bracket. Man, we got some dogs here that love barking. Man, these dogs don't look nice. They look mean. Look at these dogs. Mean as hell. Big dogs.
Sorry about the bark.
It's all good. They're just a little big. I was like, whoa, it's a little intimidating. So now that the dogs are done barking and we can focus a little bit more here, let's talk a little bit about the next tax bracket. So that way we can continue from here. So as we discussed previously, you have a $4,266 tax bill for that particular bracket there. And again, that's 12% on the $35,549. Now, the next bracket that you get into is the highest portion that you'll pay on your money, and that's the 22% tax bracket that we talked about earlier. Now, if you notice, that tax bracket starts at $47,151 and goes all the way up to your total $58,000 that you made throughout the entire year. So if you do the difference between the two, you will see that in that particular bracket, you have $10,849 worth of income that you're gonna be taxed at 22%. So now, if you do the math here a little bit, you'll realize that you have a tax bill of $2,387 for that particular tax bracket. Now that you know all the taxes that are associated with each bracket, all you have to do now is add all of it up together. So $1,160 for the first bracket, or the 10% that we owe on that bracket, $4,266 for the next tax bracket, and of course, that is on the 12% that we had to pay. And then for the last one, on the 22% bracket, $2,387 is what we owe for that tax bracket. And you'll see that you have a total tax bill of $7,813 or what we like to say is an effective tax rate. And if you do your $7,813 and divide that into your total income, gross income is all the money that you bring into your house before taxes. If you divide that into the 58,000, you'll see that you have an effective tax rate of 13%, not 22%, which is what most people think. And that right there is the basics of how you figure out how much your effective tax rate is and how much you pay in taxes, not of course counting any deductions or anything along those lines. But in a general sense, guys, you understand now the basics of how do you calculate how much you have in taxes. And I'll tell you right now, most people can't do that. And why is it that we don't know how to do that? Is because we weren't taught taxes in school. That's not a thing that we really focused on. And isn't it crazy how they don't teach you this stuff in school, but yet every single year you got to lose money to taxes and you don't know how you can keep most of that for yourself? Isn't it interesting that they teach you all this great stuff about how to generate money and be a good worker, but they don't teach you anything about how to keep the money? They don't teach you about how to invest it. They don't teach you about taxes at all or where that money is going. I find that very, very interesting. Let me know in the comments, guys, if this is something that you learned in school, or by the way, if your parents taught you this. I mean, if your parents taught you this, you had some phenomenal parents, I will say. Again, so you just had that basic understanding of how you start to figure out your taxes and how much you owe. And now the question is, well, how do people pay less in taxes? And you start to really learn this tax situation and how it starts to work in your favor when you figure out the rules. And one of the basic things that people don't even realize is you can lower your taxes. So here's an example of how you can do that. So two important things to think about. Sometimes you'll hear the word deduction, and sometimes you'll hear the word tax credit. So what is the difference between a deduction and what is the difference between a tax credit? So let's go with our previous example of what we were doing to figure out our taxable income and apply those definitions so that way we can see how they benefit us. Because I guarantee you, people don't even realize this. So let's start off with the tax deduction first. What does that mean? A tax deduction is an indirect savings. And what the heck does indirect savings mean? Well, if I were to put up the table that we did before in calculating how much taxes that we owe, let's say, for example, and this is one thing that I constantly see a lot in the workplace, people don't even know this, is nobody ever contributes to their 401k. It's something that is an afterthought. People don't care about it. I don't know what it is, but the savings rates when it comes to a traditional 401k, nobody really saves anything. And they don't realize that saving in a 401k actually can help you from a tax perspective. Now, of course, I can argue with you that in the long run, they'll get you on the back end. But if you need those tax savings today, a 401k, a traditional 401k, is absolutely one of the best ways to take that tax deduction, and you have what's called indirect savings. So let's apply that so that way we can see what that definition means. So let's say I'm interested in putting away $10,000 into my 401k. So when you go fill out your paperwork and you get ready to fill out your taxes, Uncle Sam now says, hey, I see here that gross you made $58,000, but you put away $10,000 in a traditional IRA. And because you put $10,000 into a IRA, essentially you now made $48,000. You didn't make $58,000, you made $48,000, because that $10,000 is deducted from your gross income. Remember, gross is all money that you made before taxes. And so once we've adjusted our gross income to now $48,000, that's where you hear the term all the time, AGI. When you hear that term and people say AGI, or adjusted gross income, that means that people have taken a deduction so that way on paper it looks like you've made less, even though technically you made more, which is your gross income. So now if we take that $10,000 that we just talked about and we put it into a traditional 401k, not only are you saving and investing for retirement, which is awesome, but again, if I were to put the little table up before of how we were calculating our taxes, you can now start to see that you also get a tax savings, and this is an indirect savings. You get that today because if you look at your top 22% there, remember, before in our gross we made 58. Now our adjusted gross, because we put 10,000 in our traditional 401k, is now 48,000. You now have a tax bill for that 22% bracket. It is now $849 instead of the $10,849. Why is it only $849? Well, that's because on paper we made $48,000 instead of $58,000, right? We lowered our gross income, or the adjustable gross income, now by $10,000. So now that you only have $849 that has to be taxed at the 22% tax bracket compared to the $10,849 like before, your new taxes in that tax bill, or in that bracket, should I say, is only $187 compared to the $2,387 that you had before in a tax bill in that specific bracket. And that right there is why it's called an indirect savings. You're indirectly saving because your taxes get lowered by investing in your 401k. That is an example of how people get ahead financially, because not only are they leveraging the tax system, but they're also as well leveraging their 401k in order to save for retirement and give them the income that they need for later on in life. Now let's talk lastly about tax credit and how that differs from a deduction. And a tax credit, all that really is a $1-for-$1 savings on your taxes. It's not an indirect savings like you do with, say, for example, a tax deduction. So I'll give you an example, one quick example of how you can leverage tax credits in order to also help you out and really start to get ahead. So we're still at that 58,000, right? Let's say, for example, I am a single father, right? I have kids. Or to make this even simpler, let's say I have one child. Now I can leverage the child tax credit. Remember, that's a $1-for-$1 savings. And essentially, let's say, for example, if we are back to the previous example where we had a total tax bill of $7,813. And remember how we calculated that? We went through each step or each bracket and figured out what we owed based on our $58,000. So the $7,813, I can take a child tax credit, and let's say, as an example, that is $2,000 per child. That $2,000 is directly subtracted from the $7,813, right? It's a direct savings. It's directly off the tax bill. It's not indirectly like a tax deduction, as you've seen before. Now, the really cool thing is, and this is where you start to get a team around you. This is where you start to get people to help you, so that way you can learn even further, and you have a tax strategist, is what they call it. So with this new team or this new tax strategist, they can guide you and they can say, hey, you know what? You can leverage the child tax credit in order to get you $2,000 off your tax bill, and then you couple it, right? You marry that with, hey, let's also lower your AGI by having a tax deduction of investing in your 401k. So essentially, I can lower my taxes by over $4,000 just by investing in my 401k, which is awesome because I'm going to need that money for retirement in the future. And also as well, I can leverage the child tax credit in order to make sure that I help offset some of the costs associated with raising a child. Now, for those of you out there that have kids, you already know that a $2,000 savings is nothing compared to what you put into those kids. Those kids are expensive. Jeez. But of course, we love them, right? They're the future of America. That, in a nutshell, is how taxes work in this country. At least how you start figuring out from a basic perspective how you calculate how much taxes you're going to make. Then on top of that, you learn some of the basics, how to lower your AGI or your adjustable gross income, right? You can leverage deductions. And then also as well, you learned a little bit about 1-for-1 tax credits. It's important to know these things because, again, as they say, What is guaranteed in this world is taxes and death. And by far, if you're gonna have taxes every single year for the rest of your life, you might as well get on this boat and learn exactly how they work. If not, you're gonna be stuck paying all the taxes in this country. And you know exactly where your money is going when you pay these taxes. Again, guys, sound off in the comments below. Let me know if this has helped you or if it didn't, or if you wanna add some context to it. Again, I don't know all the answers, but I love sharing with you everything that I have learned up until this point in my life. So that'll do it for me, guys. I'm gonna head back and hopefully I don't get soaked this time. Hopefully, I pray it doesn't rain. Hopefully it stays as nice as it is now. But even if it rains and it pours, I still gotta get this content out for you guys because again, I love you. I appreciate you all. Thank you for following me on the journey. And again, don't forget to give me a like for the video as it helps the channel grow. And on top of that, I literally got caught in the rain for you guys. Secondly, go ahead and you make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications so that way you're notified whenever I upload new videos to the channel. And again, guys, there seems to be dogs everywhere, right? They're all barking at me. I'm literally risking my life for you guys. And share this with a family member or a friend so that way they can learn a thing or two about today's content. Lastly, guys, don't forget, get your coaching calls. I want to talk to you guys. I want to see how well you're doing or if I can help you in any way possible. Trust me, it fills my heart to see people doing well with the help that I'm providing them. So if you guys want to get ahead, links will be in the description below. All right, guys, love you, appreciate you, and I'll see you all in the next one.